Come on.
Hey.
All right. Yay. I would much rather talk about industrial ice machines than episode 3 of Moon Knight.
That's a segue that.
Wow, that's a segue.
There. Yeah, here we go.
He's not wrong.
Ooh, okay. So I'm not going to be the lone voice here tonight. Well, of course I'm not going to be the lone voice because I'm not talking to myself. I've got multiple people here in the room with me, much like Oscar Isaac's character on Moon Knight, which is what we're discussing tonight. It's Wednesday Night Live, everybody. We're talking about Disney Marvel's Moon Knight episode 3. What's it called? We're all together, or they're all here, or the gang's all wet. I don't know. The friendly type. That's what it is.
Gang's all wet, which is really tough to do in a desert. But
yeah,
hey,
you know,
crazy.
Moisture. Yeah.
Moisture's. I'm going to tell your wife you said that. Okay, gotcha. Okay. I'm going to tell my wife you said that too.
Been here for last week's ending.
I should have. Yeah.
It was amazing. So here I am, Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Annie Banks of Chuckload of Comics and Movie Web. We have Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck, aka a Movie Man Tap.
You said that well.
You did. You said that really well. Wow.
Yeah.
And of Special Mark Productions and the Spoiler Room podcast, and also joining us from the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast and N25YL, Don Shanahan. Welcome. The first time that you're on Wednesday Night Live, and conspicuously, the quote unquote other half of that podcast, Will Johnson, could not join us tonight. I think there's a Clark Kent Superman thing going on.
You know, I have a beard and some spirit gum laying around when I need to, and I have a fat suit that puts on like 25 extra pounds from where I am, and I take the red-eye flights to Phoenix to teach his class and learn better Spanish, and definitely not better English, even though he's an English teacher. But we get through, you know. Yeah.
Well, Don, thanks for telling me that you have a beard. I've always suspected. But anyway, we're going to talk about Moon Knight tonight. Okay. Did you catch that, by the way? Was that just like where? No,
right over my head. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look it up later, but not at work. Anyway, good evening, everybody. How do we feel about Moon Knight episode 3? And Don, do you want to give the brief rundown of the episode?
I'll admit, coming in here to episode 3, joining the dais, and it's nice to be here. I missed your shows for the first 2, or at least appearing on them and all that. And I admit I'm that guy who has been lost all 3 episodes. Like, but I'm dazzled by what's there to be lost with. But I'm definitely that person where this has to kind of go somewhere. And if we're just gonna raise a little hell and raise a little dead out in the desert, I don't know if that's enough. I'm not saying this has to be Marvel-tastic where it all has to connect and go somewhere super specific and memorable from a place we've known. But this episode has Marc and Layla not necessarily on lamb and on the run, but in Egypt trying to chase down Arthur and his situation about where he has the compass to find the tomb, or the tomb of Amet. Am I saying it right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So obviously Arthur has the shortcut golden ticket to kind of get where he needs to go, and Marc / Steven / and no slashes in that one, and Layla are trying to chase the clues to find the same location that Arthur's on to. And this is definitely an episode where they are kind of bouncing around town trying to figure that out. Has a lead or two, having to do with a black market sarcophagus owned by a mysterious man of mystery and riches that is here one moment, gone the next. And at the same time, we have our usual dueling triple person thing with Kanju and all the things like that. So there's some action in order to get the information and get away with it, and at the same time we learn a little bit more of Marc and Layla along the way, which is nice character depth. I'll tip my hat to that. Marvel's done that well over the time here, where there's times we could call some of that filler, but there's times where, like, hey, this is history that I think we could use and need as we go build on, and the Marc and Layla dynamic is helpful, because if it's not there, Layla is purely a person who just shows up thanks to a cell phone, an episode ago. So yeah, this is still for me something that is dangling with randomness, with loose laces, and I know it can and will go somewhere. But this episode, I'll join the folks of you. This one lost me, and I've been lost the whole time. Thrilled the whole time. But this one probably had lesser thrills than the first two, where not only am I lost, now I'm less thrilled.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned the F word, filler.
Oh, I wasn't in a 6-episode series. Can we call it that? But maybe, I don't know.
Well, I had the experience today of watching Moon Knight 3 and thinking this entire series feels like filler.
Ooh, that's a damning thing, and I'm tipping my hat. I got to hear this.
Well, Annie, I want to take this in a slightly different direction. Annie, we talked last week about how I had been reading the original kind of run of Moon Knight comics from the early 80s.
Right.
And then I had gotten a hold of the Jeff Lemire run from a few years ago in this collection. I think you mentioned that you were reading this too. Is that right?
I am. I love everything that it's doing right now. I think it's fantastic. And I wish it was drawing more from that specific run, because a lot of the character designs do honor that. And I think that's the most that they honor from up until next week.
How far are you into this collection?
I'm about halfway.
Okay. Here's a good example. I am still like maybe a third of the way through that original Moon Knight collection, because even though they're regular 24-page comics, they're dense. And not dense in the way of like, oh, it's just like pages and pages of dialogue. It's story heavy, and it takes a while to get into it.
It is so much. Speaking of the comics, you may want to take a look at the comments.
I will.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll get to Big Swifty in a second.
Yeah, but no, I think that with the Lemire run, I was actually, when I went to go visit my sister this weekend, there's a comic book shop on her campus, and I stopped in. I was like, can I see this book, please? And I ended up striking up a conversation with the guy behind the counter about it. And we were just it was a lot of that. It felt like being in an echo chamber, because we were both kind of agreeing that there's a lot of aesthetic purposes drawn from this book. But the narrative, even with even last week introducing Mr. Knight, how it's just an alternative suit for Steven. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Well, and
with this episode, it doesn't really help that case. It really doesn't emphasize anything more, where we have yet to see Jake Lockley in full.
Well, we'll get to Jake Lockley in a bit.
It feels like we're just observing a conversation between Marc and Layla.
Yeah, and that even gave me like flashback to some of the scenes in Loki where he was talking to, what was her name?
We called her
Sophie. Yes,
Shaloki.
Especially the train episode where they're
Go back to show notes. It's Shaloki.
Yes, but no, exactly. The train episode in this one, they're just kind of on a boat, and I'm like, they're kind of, not that they're taking from each other's playbooks, but there's similarities there. But no, the thing about this collection is, I thought it started off real strong, and I don't want to shade the way you perceive the rest of the book, especially because
you're welcome to your perception. Yeah, absolutely.
But we also disagreed on Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, a collection that I read and I couldn't stand. I skipped entire stretches of the Lemire Moon Knight run. Now, I read the entire thing cover to cover, but there are action scenes that involve like illusions or delusions that one of the Moon Knights, whoever they are having about certain, there's like a space battle. I'll just say that. And I'm like, what is this? This, I can tell just by looking at it, has nothing to do with the grander narrative. I'm just like flip. And it goes back to the problem we were talking about last week. If I had been buying this as a monthly series, I would have given up after issue 4. And by the time I got to the end of it, I thought, wow, this is a profound waste of time. And if this is, and people keep telling me, oh, the series is drawing on this, I don't see it yet. But if it goes where I think it's going to go, then my impulse to just cut this entire endeavor short is going to be so strong by the time we reach episode 5. Now, I'm hoping that this oasis of episode 4 that everyone's talking up, and including you, is the thing that really turns me around on this. But even if the twist is similar to the twist in the book, I don't think it's going to be enough, especially if they're faithful to what happens after in the book.
And there's a turning point. You have to wait for it in the 4th episode. I'm going to be so honest with you. If you decide to go halfway through the 4th episode,
No, I'm
and
gonna
just
get.
watch it
I'm gonna
from there,
watch.
you know what I mean? But like it has this twist that I've said this since our first meeting. Episode 4 should have been episode 2 or 3. And then you really hit the ground running with this. I don't know what they're exactly trying to do with this. I feel lost. I feel like there's not enough information. I understand that they're trying to be very particular about depicting certain themes and certain elements of the show, drawn from true to life experiences. And that's awesome. And that representation is so cool. Like I wrote something similar about this today, about, how we need to be aware of how we decide to include certain things, different elements, storytelling narratives, things like that. But with this, I think Marvel is so afraid of being different with this in particular.
Now you're talking.
And after they advertised it, I said this last week, after they advertised it as this very gritty, very raunchy, very aggressive, very dark and atmospheric thing, I'm still waiting for that. And they did that with Daredevil, they did that with Punisher, they did that with Luke Cage, they did that with Jessica Jones. I was expecting that type of unsettling and very just gloomy series. And I didn't, trying to get that from this, it feels like they looked at the cover of the Lemire run and said, that's a really neat idea for Khonshu. And then they did it, and then that was it. And then you have Oscar. I love Oscar Isaac, I do, but you have Oscar Isaac acting his ass off to do the same performance for the same 3 episodes.
Yeah, and as far as the the grittiness that you mentioned, there's a point in this show where Stephen Grant, and it's a nitpick, and for those who have not read the comics or kept up on them at all, this is not going to be anything to you, but again, in the original conception, Stephen Grant was the Bruce Wayne. He was the billionaire playboy who was funding everything. So in this iteration of the series, to see him being the bumbling Cockney accent guy who doesn't know where he is, it's constantly like, because they keep saying, it's, Stephen, we can't let him out. He's going to muck it up. I'm like, why? He's the super genius. Oh, no, he's this guy, this clown. But no, at one point he's yelling and he says, what the F is going on? I'm like, what the
That's
F?
a very good accent, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Am I in the call with Stephen Grant?
Yeah.
No, it's Jake Lockley. But it again, this whole idea, and I know it's a Disney Marvel show, but if it's supposed to be this hardcore thing, give us an F-bomb.
Yeah.
And I think that he says what the F twice, and I'm like, this just isn't cutting it. Not that I need to see it, but
with that too, just because even like looking back, there's not much to say about this week's episode. I'm going to be honest with you, because there was nothing from this week's episode that was, besides, you know what? No, I would take that back, and I think if Will were here, he would agree. The mention of Madripoor.
Now we're finally throwing a thread out to something
We're finally
else.
trying to connect that back to the rest of the MCU, and that was a prime location for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we kind of got to explore that a little more. And that added a little more life to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Aside from that, I'm watching a conversation between Layla and Marc. I'm watching Stephen have a breakdown for the 3rd time in the last month. But I forgot what I was going to say. No, I'm going to flip back and forth. My eyes are rolling back.
Yeah.
But no, I think that like the way that they're going about this, especially, I remember what I was going to say. Last episode, where a couple episodes ago, where he freaks out after seeing Khonshu for the first time, and he has this freeze frame moment, and it lingers for like a good 5 seconds and then cuts. How am I supposed to believe that this is, a new breed for the Marvel Cinematic Universe if I'm watching the same humor that they tried to hit me with in 2012?
Well, they've definitely got a house style, yeah.
Is this
it's the mouse? It is the mouse.
Is this the house style, or is it the? I don't want to say. I got it. I think I'm with Annie where this has to be house style more than the creators they're borrowing to bring in here to put this thing together, because Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, who are series directors, and I don't know if they're co-producers, they all have the titles at this point. Those guys know their science fiction with stuff like The Endless and Synchronic. Like, they make some cool stuff. And it's nice to see them upped into something like this. And we've seen young filmmakers kind of get that springboard from Marvel to kind of do something bigger and different. And obviously to hire Mohammed Diad as a, you know, as an ethnic match to where this, you know, content is also probably Disney checking boxes. But at the same time, you got a rookie in there more than anything. But I don't feel like all of this is rookie mistakes. I feel like where Annie's going is right. Like, this feels washed, you know, touted to be this tough thing. And yeah, we have a character who's willing to kill. We have a character who's willing to stab some motherfuckers. But that's about as far as it really gets. It's still very sanitized. It's deadly, but it's, I don't know. They're pulling punches still.
It's
He can't
deadly,
pull a
it's
punch,
deadly
though.
boring.
They're pulling punches. He can't pull a punch. He can't throw a punch because it's all CGI.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Mark, get in here.
Please.
I just want to give you an open because we've been talking all around.
No,
here.
I very enjoyed the conversation. This is, you know, initially when we got into What If, and we're seeing What If going to probably pay off with the madness of the multiverse. So that one we can kind of give you for, you know, and there was Hawkeye, but in between there, from House of the Mouse, not just Marvel, we've had Book of Boba Fett, which you're trying to take a dark character and you're trying to do a show, and yet you're Disney Plus. Now you're trying to do Moon Knight. You're trying to sell this as being a dark, more gritty series. It's still Disney Plus. Yeah. This is like when Disney tried to go and remove all their subsidiary brands and bring all the movies under one name until they realized it meant Disney's Bad Santa does not look good on a DVD case for kiddies. I disagree with that, by the way. Well, I mean, as entertaining as it would be, you know what I'm saying, and I think we're really seeing that here. It wasn't that I felt this episode was filler. We blew through what would probably be a good few episodes just by itself when we get into the whole Avatar representation and the council. I'm like, this is awesome stuff. Yeah, and it was around for like 5 minutes. And not only that, it was poorly written because you have these people who are supposedly gods buying into Harrow's thing that, oh, no, I'm not doing anything bad. I just came to visit the sand. I'm like, come on. Really? You guys are omnipotent, all-knowing, even if you don't give a flying leap about humans, you know, but there's a lot of squandered opportunity throughout this whole series, and it really comes to a head here. You get to the part where he looks at Steven. There's moments where, you know, he looks at the mirror and Steven goes, holy crap, we're inside the Pyramid of Giza. You know, it's an interesting moment. You get the avatars show up, and then you get the gods talking through their avatars. Okay, now we see kind of the reason for the avatars. Really interesting stuff. I'm a big Stargate guy, so this was tapping into my Stargate vein. I'm like, oh, we're going to be exploring this. And they use it for a really flat, unbelievable jury that they believe an ex-avatar right at face value, just because they have a grudge against, Moon Knight's, God. Khonshu, I mean, like, Khonshu. I'm like, I just wasn't buying it. I understand what they were kind of going for, but it shows why House of Mouse, there's certain material they just don't handle well. And it's this stuff because they're trying to still market it. I mean, it's adorable. You saw the red carpet. You saw the red carpet video of the kid in full Moon Knight garb with Isaac. That's who they're still trying to make this for. Yet say, oh, it's mature, but realize, oh, we can't really go that mature because we've got these little ones who are dressing up as Moon Knight.
And that's Disney. A really good point with the Avatar thing, Mark. When I was watching the council have their meeting for a whole 5 minutes, if we're lucky, there was a show that used to run on the CW called Supernatural.
Oh,
for a long time.
14 years, I believe.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Should have ended at 9. I was a huge Supernatural fan. I loved it. I met the cast. I was so into it. It was like, it took me through my middle school to my late high school days, and it was, I loved it. But
Did
the
you
cool
did you
thing
pass out in the presence of Jensen Ackles? Because
I
I
would.
certainly would have.
Everybody seems to just pass out for
I
him.
actually met
so.
Misha Collins. I was signed like a little photo, a headshot of Misha Collins somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's gonna be Two-Face, which is super cool. No,
Really?
but I'm looking at this and I'm going, wow, this is what Supernatural did with the Catholicism concept, where they brought these Catholic deities, these Catholic images into this mainstream show, but did it really well because you have God and God's some bum on the side of the road, and he does it really well. Where you have this angel, and this angel is working a 9 to 5, and that's really neat. I was expecting, same thing with Disney Plus working on a Percy Jackson series, which I'm not going to.
My faith is low.
We're running so deep back into my Percy Jackson phase, but.
My wife and son read those books and they're obsessed. So I told my wife that they're making a series. She's flipped out.
Yeah, I saw the announcement of Percy's casting. I'm so ready.
Well, he's a good
it's
little
the
actor.
same thing. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, are they gonna? Because it's you have these influences of past shows that are trying to accomplish. You have these upcoming series that are going to be treading that same path. How is that going to play out, and how is this going to continue to play out through the extent of Moon Knight? Because from what I was privileged enough to see, and what I assume Don was privileged enough to see, a big assume, but we don't really see that moving forward. This is it. So far, unless there's like in episode 5 and 6 where they do decide to make this big sweep through the gods again. This is it. For a show that is so heavy on Egyptology and Egyptian mythology, we don't get the gods.
Wow. And you're right, Annie. Like Supernatural is a great comparison because you're still talking about a sanitized CW that plays very middle, plays very teen or younger, and Supernatural went tremendously harder and deeper and grander than any minute of this show has been in 3 episodes, and that's saying something that the CW can top Disney Plus.
Well, and here's the thing:
but Disney's had the answer of how they could have done this better the whole time. When they bought Fox, they bought controlling interest in Hulu, and since then they have bought out the rest of Hulu from Comcast. And why Hulu can't just be the Touchstone Pictures, Searchlight Pictures shingle of everything you don't want to put a Disney label on, but still want to make money on, because Hulu's an existing brand. Put all your Fox and R-rated content on Hulu. You still get all the money. Yeah, it says Hulu on it, but who cares? Like you get
it's in the same bundle with ESPN for crying out loud.
Well, so that's what you have a place where you can put all that stuff and not be scared to put a Disney stamp on it.
And that's what a lot of people thought when they heard Disney was buying Hulu. They're like, that's perfect. They move all their mature stuff to Hulu. Sure, it's a name, but it's just like, Buena Vista Entertainment or Touchstone Pictures. It's still Disney at the end of the day. It still goes into the same coffers. And, they could have done that. And then you have the separation, and you could have put a grittier, darker Moon Knight on Hulu.
Well, talk about a draw. Like, if you're worried about Hulu floundering versus Netflix and your own Disney Plus, inject it with some Marvel, inject it with some Dark Marvel.
They've got the branding worked out. They've got the branding worked out from 20 years ago. You just rebrand it. You brand it Marvel Max. You've got because that was the adult Marvel label back, in the early 2000s, and you just put that on Hulu along with Punisher, Daredevil, Moon Knight, whatever.
You just rebrand Hulu to, like either Buena Vista Plus or, something, Touchstone Plus, whatever you want to.
I think you just keep it.
Disney Dark.
Disney Dark. Disney After Dark. There you go.
Disney Dark. There you go.
But no, here's as far as Supernatural, I remember the pilot episode. It's a CW show, right? They didn't do anything, as far as I remember, graphic. Was that the one? It was the origin, but also they had the boy in the lake. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the
right, but there was that the episode where they had the boy in the lake. It was sort of like the Jason kind of episode. Or was that like 2 or 3? It was early on.
Sure.
But that episode, that scene where they just show like the little drowned dead kid, you just see like him like this eye line above the water for like a split second. That and the scene that was definitely from the pilot where the demon goes into the baby's nursery and the mom walks by and she's like, honey, is that you? And you just see the shadowy figure turn and go, shh. And then she keeps walking until she realizes something horrible has happened. That was some spooky atmospheric stuff that does not involve quote unquote adult content. They could have gone that route, with Moon Knight and given it, make it a horror show. You can have it be, because the idea of having multiple personalities that you can't control is a horrific, terrifying idea, but they're just playing it up the comedy angle. With this weird, wacky, Oscar Isaac personality. Now, Annie, you mentioned that we haven't really seen Jake Lockley. Towards the end of this episode, when Layla and I think it was Mark, one of them was in the car, I could have sworn that Oscar Isaac's accent was getting a little Brooklyn. Did you pick up on that?
A little bit. Then again, I paid attention. I didn't pay as much attention as I should have. I would assume that whenever he's going to don that ball cap, that's going to be our Jake Lockley.
Okay.
Because he wears the cabbie hat in the comics.
And the fake mustache.
And the fake mustache. I can't wait for them to comically just slap a paper mustache on him and have this really fucking bad accent. And it's, oh, look, it's Jake Lockley. Jake Lockley's here, guys. And we're all going to clap like it's Norm from Cheers walking in the bar.
Right.
Because that's how it goes at Disney Plus. But, I think that we're going to get there.
Yeah.
But not fully. Like, you pick up on that accent and you go, oh, that's different. That's peculiar. And then they just jump ship right away.
Well, I don't go. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, you do get a section in here where I'm not familiar with the character at all. So I'm just going by what I'm watching on TV. But you get the one section in here where you end up having Mark and Steven going, wait, did you just annihilate all these guys? No, I didn't make these guys a bloody mess. Did you? So maybe that's the Lockley character that they're alluding to. I don't know if Lockley's that type of guy, but
he's not. But given that this show has completely ignored canon and the original purpose of this, it could be. I mean, Jake Lockley was, I think I've mentioned this, he was the street level character version, the identity who could go into like a bar or a diner and say, hey, what's shaking in the underworld? And he can get information they would feed to Stephen Grant, who would fuel up the helicopter that Frenchie would fly around in with Moon Knight. And if none of that made sense to any of you, don't worry, it's in the comics and not the show.
Okay.
But I want to pull over for just a second because we are overdue for some comments. We got a couple here. From Big Swifty 500, another one of our super fans. I love him. I love them. I still don't know who Big Swifty really is. So I have to admit, I'm not a fan of any superhero movies or TV series. But I do, because you're too busy watching and admiring Italian horror and Hammer movies, I assume. So yeah, nothing wrong with that either. But I do have Moon Knight #1 in my old comic book collection in mint condition. Is it worth anything? I would say, I would have to guess yes, only because, as I mentioned before, the Moon Knight collection that I got, the one from the early 80s, is actually volume 2 of the so-called Epic Collection trade paperback. Okay. You can only read issues 1 through 4 by signing up for Comixology. And you can read them on there. If you want to buy the Marvel Epic Collection Volume 1, which has 1 through 4, you're going to pay like $70.
Hell no.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, Dave Fowley, he's got it. He bought it on Amazon like a few months ago. So I guess it was just before.
Dave Fowley is also on a super cool vacation right now. So I guess,
true.
Yeah.
He is, and he's on a vacation from this episode, which is, I have a feeling is probably good because I think he likes Moon Knight a little bit more than I do. But no, but I don't think he didn't pay he didn't pay the $70. He paid like cover price, but I think he got like the last issue before it skyrocketed because it's no longer really in print.
So it looks like the current going price at the highest for Moon Knight #1 is between $194 to $298.
Damn.
Because the series is out right now.
Yeah,
so
what was it 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
In a quarter, right? Yeah.
No, it was probably like $700, and then people actually started watching the show, and now it's down to $300.
Yeah.
But no, Big Swifty, I don't give out financial advice because I want to be held liable here on YouTube land. But sell. All right. And we have Petty, another super fan. Yay, Petty. Good evening to the experts. I get the impression that Moon Knight is going down the same path of shame as the Book of Boba Fett. For example, all the fights in this episode are implausible.
Oh gosh, yes. I'm gonna stand there and stab you, but not finish the job, so you can look at your girl and maybe save the day. What? Come on.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that fight alone. That's
John, what was it like being in the writers' room when they wrote that scene? That word for word
So guys,
animation.
get it right here. They're gonna stab him, right? And then they're just gonna hold him there, man. There's like sand and horses and stuff.
Did Kevin Feige walk over and shake your hand and like give you a high five and then totally like is that what...
we saw more realistic fights than
porn fan fiction than that. Come on. You know?
we saw more realistic fights in the movie Ian and I watched for my show the other night, the Legend of the Seven Gold Vampires. That had far more interesting and more plausible fights, if you could call it that, than this did. It again, this is it's a Disney product, and it shows so much that it's a Disney I mean, that's the thing. If you it blows by some of the interesting stuff to just keep moving your fights. This is our hero. There's so many ways they could have did this fight with him getting stabbed, and it's like, so far I'm not impressed by Moon Knight. He's supposed to be this badass hero who's been around. He's this avatar who can do all these things, and so far I've watched him kind of like Book of Boba Fett, where you've watched this guy just kind of luck out in not actually getting killed, only because the people he's fighting are dumber.
Well, and also, you know, this isn't really a thing, but I noticed it. Like, Layla is sort of the Fennec Shand of this series, where she's like storming in and like, you know, stirring it up and being the kind of leader, whereas the title character of the show is like kind of following along in this puppy dog, I don't know what's going on or where I belong thing, until he pulls on the costume and maybe rockets around a little bit. But Layla is the far more interesting character in this series, and that's really a shame. Now, there was a passing mention of how Marc or Steven, whichever, didn't want her to be, you know, groomed to become the next Moon Knight, because that was a possibility. But, you know, who knows with this series? I think, I don't know. This is a tough show, but I want to get back to this council, because you kind of touched on this, Marc. They're a council of gods speaking through these human avatars. I like kind of what they were going with, the idea of it's almost like the human bodies were the secret identity for these gods walking among the earth, who had the same kind of non-interventionist principle as the Eternals, which I don't know if anyone's, you know, barking like anxious to make that a connection to that movie. Yeah,
it had a feeling. It had the feeling of it, though. Yeah,
by being slow and boring.
You know what? No, but no, I'm not. This is not the forum for me to defend the Eternals again.
There was no awkward love scene. So
no.
Ian, I love you, but
thank you.
I've had sex on rocks. It's not comfortable. I'm sorry, guys. You know.
Is that to mean in a giant snifter full of ice and alcohol?
This just escalated quickly.
Was it Richard Madden? Yes or no?
I did not have sex with Richard Manning. I wish. I know, but I mean, Gem and Jam would be nice too. But, you know.
Yeah, true.
Coin toss here, like. Oh, okay.
Why not?
In that situation, don't.
Either way, you win.
Either way, I win.
Why not both? Just it's
okay.
2022.
Look. This is my punishment for bringing up the Eternals. I apologize, everybody. Right. But no, here's the thing about, I did not hate everything about this episode. In fact, I did like the very end where Khonshu gets trapped inside that stone. I thought the disintegration of his character and the kind of the carving out of the little totem on top of that stone was kind of a cool visual. But again, it's kind of too little too late, because what do we have? We've got this like weird thing about, okay, we're going to stand up on this sand dune and we're going to rewind the sky back to 2,000 years ago so we can look at this constellation. Couldn't Khonshu have just conjured up like a an air hologram of like, oh, I remember what it looks like. Here's a
Yeah.
projection of it. He
I
can do
was
all this other
there.
stuff.
Give me your newfangled iPad and I will touch it and tell you.
Well,
Shortcut,
no, or he just waves his hand and he shows what
Yeah.
the map was, but what the sky
Right.
was back then without
Mufasa
having
could do it. Why
to
can't he?
actually
Should we bring
manipulate
Matt
it.
Figurehome into the call to talk about that scene?
Wait, why was he a big proponent of it or something?
He
What am I
got up
missing?
and walked out.
Wait, got up and walked out of his living room? What?
Yeah, no, during the screening of The Lion King,
Yeah.
he got up and
Think-
walked out.
That's
Oh,
two Disney
okay.
movies he's walked out of. He's
Yeah.
a punk, in my opinion.
I
one
like
take.
the Lion King remake. I know I'm losing all
But
credibility
I
here.
don't mind
But
it
the
either.
parallels between the two scenes are
Correct.
there.
Yeah.
I get it. Now, here's the thing. Over the weekend, because I'm introducing my 4-year-old to like classic live action superhero movies. We watched the original Superman,
Oh, you're a good
which is
dad.
had never appreciated that movie like I appreciated it, watching it, this weekend.
Mhm.
And they do that bit at the end where he spins
yeah.
around the globe and rewinds time to save Lois Lane. And you get the feeling that there's, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you feel like there are consequences. Here in Moon Knight, like rewinding the sky 2,000 years is going to affect a lot of stuff.
You think it's going to put that eternal monster back into the core of the earth for a little bit? Would that help a little bit? No?
Well, we
We
still
should
have
just end it
flip
there,
phones, so we
if
don't
that's
know
the
when this is
case.
taking place,
John,
right, Mark?
congratulations.
Oh.
You
Yeah,
have
but
We don't have a
is it-
head and a claw out of the ocean over there in India? No, in Malaysia? No? Okay.
So is he Anubis or not? Is that
Oh.
supposed to be Anubis? Because Anubis
No,
was a jackal.
I don't know.
No, I'm not too
That would
familiar
kind of
with.
suck if it was not Anubis. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be
Oh.
massively disappointed if they
Well,
create
pack
this
your
monster
bags.
for a series and it has absolutely no connection to the source material whatsoever. If they were like
Well, it would be consistent.
cooking shit up like they did with the Deviants,
True.
and we're like, this was rejecting
True.
Deviant or some nonsense. I'm going to swing on probably Oscar Isaac. No, I will. No, that would be just a total waste. Even if they it can't be Jack Russell Jack Russell from Werewolf by Night, could it?
I don't know.
You've got it on the head though. The wasted potential. I loved the Khonshu idea with him turning into the statue, even if the rewinding of the sky was kind of ridiculous. I'm like, okay, at least this is something. This is him doing actual God something, and he gets turned into a statue. The problem is, and I've seen this in some movies too, where they have this epic moment and it's supposed to be like a big moment, but they've had no buildup. They literally
Exactly.
go from the trial where none of the gods they just take it at face value of Haro, who's a rejected avatar. Oh yeah, you're right. No, this guy's crazy. It can't be true. To suddenly they're in the room with Haro when, they're showing him, hey, look, we turned the god into a statue.
Hey, good
Like
news.
they're buddies
Yeah.
with him. They're kicking a beer in the back, and I'm like sitting here going, but they act like this is an epic thing. And while my brain is saying this should be epic, that Khonshu is now a statue, and what is Moon Knight going to do? There's been absolutely no narrative build up enough to this, because the series so far in 3 episodes is flying past things so much.
Yeah.
It's just fun. There is an interesting story just with Isaac and Oscar, with Moon Knight and his different personalities going on.
Yeah.
There's a
if
whole
this never
interesting-
left London, we'd be fascinated.
This could have been him suddenly, figuring out why, is he the one killing these, criminals on the street? It could have been Haro. It could have been, they could have played a lot of that and stayed in London. They tried to take it.
It could have been Matt Smith, honestly.
Or it could have been Matt Smith.
Okay, would Matt
Let's give
Smith's
him another dry
alternate
comic book
personality
role.
have
Great.
eyebrows?
Huh?
What's that?
Good point.
Would Matt Smith's alternative, like his alter, right? Would they finally give one of them eyebrows?
No.
It'd be a
let's not
unibrow.
do that.
It'd
Yeah.
be a unibrow.
But to compile
I
onto
will
that
take
console scene.
Ian, I'll take the unibrow. I will take that.
I'll
That
take
would be
unibrows for
Morbius
500.
2, more BS.
To pile onto that console scene and the weight that's not there, that stuff should hit like eyes wide shut, like Spector even.
I'd
like,
watch that.
Remember,
No,
like when Bond walks into the Christoph Waltz introduction and like that whole scene of just how dark, deeply seated and violent and abrupt that council is in the Bond movie, and then even the Eyes Wide Shut scene of that big council, like it should hit like that. And we're sitting here like, 5-minute thing, like yeah.
Well,
like
it's
Mark's talking about.
what they failed to set up, in my opinion, is you go in and you see all these avatars, and the one lady introduces herself to
Nice.
Marc Spector,
Yeah.
but everyone else kind of shows up, and it almost has the feeling of, well, the gods just possess these random people. Like it would have been interesting if we had gotten to know them as, they have lives, and what is it like being the avatar of
Right.
these other gods kind of walking around. The only thing I thought was kind of impressive was there's the guy I'll call the Phil Collins avatar. He was like the leader of the group. When again, I'm doing it now. When Oscar Isaac
Do it.
reaches out to strike Ethan Hawke, and then he's kind of restrained. His punch is restrained by those kind of noodly glowing wrist cuffs,
yeah.
which sort of looked almost like the Shang-Chi bracelets
Yes,
glowing.
they did.
But when he has when he's restrained, Phil Collins says, "We will not tolerate violence in this chamber." Someone is going to cut that into the Will Smith slap, and they have to do that because
Like,
that would
there's
be
a little
amazing.
hold. That'd be, yeah.
No, he goes in for the slap, and then they'll put the little
Stop,
restraining
yeah.
wrists, and they'll pause it, and then that guy will come in with that line.
But
But-
again, they seem to be afraid to actually dive into some of this stuff. They're presenting the ideas,
Yeah.
but they're afraid
Dance
to go
around it.
into it because they're dancing around it. I hate bringing up the Book of Boba Fett, but I get the same feeling with the Book of Boba Fett. There's a lot of ideas and a lot of great concepts, but they fly by and they never explore them. They're like, hey, here's a good idea. It's like a brainstorming session.
Yeah.
It's like they took the notes from the dry erase board and put them on paper. Okay, here's episode 1 through 6. And then they just tossed the ideas into the episodes, kind of shuffled them a bit and going, here's your script. No, we only got 6 episodes, but don't worry, we've got the movies coming. We're just tiding people over till we get to the movies. And that's what it feels like. I mean,
Yeah.
if you didn't have Hawkeye in between, I would be really wondering what's going on with creative team. They luck out with Hawkeye in between,
Right.
because we get What If, and then you got Hawkeye, and then of course, No Way Home, which is actually Sony and Marvel. So take that as you will. But then outside of those two nuggets in there on either end, it's kind of been
Yeah.
it's
Well,
Doctor
almost
Strange is next. Where
If you want to watch something really good that does have avatars in it, I always recommend Avatar: The Last Airbender,
yes.
because that's how you depict
Oh yeah.
avatarism. That's how you depict.
the cartoon, I hope.
Yes,
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not the M. Night Shyamalan.
Not
Hey,
the, I will
Hey,
Hey.
if you
that,
course you would.
that movie
Of course
changed
you
my
would.
life, man.
Oh, it changed mine too.
Oh.
But
Oh,
the priesthood, and here I am.
deliciously bad.
Life altering.
Yeah.
But, here's the thing. I had never seen Avatar, The
Really?
Last Airbender, and my wife and I watched the first 3 episodes or whatever, right before we went to the theater to see Shyamalan's Avatar.
Oh no!
And the thing is,
Oh, no.
there's more story and character and imagination in those hour and a half than there was in the entire whatever the hell that live action thing was. And that's why I own it on Blu-ray. I found it at Five Below, at the end of last year.
Nice.
I think I still paid too much for it, but I can revisit it in high definition whenever I want. So be
You
jealous.
sure can.
So-
You can follow the world of Aang and Sokka, and
I was a sucker for watching that movie,
Yeah.
but
I
okay.
wanted to know,
Here's
but
the thing.
again, that's a prime example of telling, especially with these incarnations that we're dealing with and trying to navigate who's who and why these gods have so much symbolism and why we should care about them. Because I'm not finding myself caring about any of these deities as much as I possibly should.
Mhm.
I'm not feeling myself care about who's coveting the scarab and why the scarab is so important. They gave that information out to us. I'm not sold on this being the most important object in the world.
Me neither.
I'm not
No.
sold on it being the thing that balances the universe.
No.
I grew up watching Avatar, and it shaped me into who I am today, which I'm very, very fortunate for. It's just truly is a life-changing show. I rewatched it when it was up on Netflix before, when they announced that they were going to be doing live action. And then Paramount announced Avatar Studios, which I can't wait for. But, going back and watching it, between being like 10 years old to 22 years old and just having that same very emotional attachment, a very strong reaction to the show and how well it really does age. And then looking this and seeing them try to rewalk again, like what Supernatural did, what these other shows have done, trying to convince people to care about these omnipotent beings. From a very humanized standpoint, they're missing the mark tremendously, and it's disappointing because you could do so much more with these things. Give them more personalities, give them more to do, give them more than just being a council. Let them roam Earth, let them interact with Khonshu, let them interact with Marc. Why isn't he experiencing more than what it is?
Here's the thing. I'm maintaining, and I'll be able to stand by this or walk it back after the end of these 6 episodes, but nothing has thrilled me in this show the same experience that I've had reading those early 80s Marvel comics, because they had very little to do with the whole Egypt thing. Now, again, I didn't have access to the first 4 issues, so I'm just reading about like them, Moon Knight and his kind of band of do-gooders taking on weird, supervillains and stuff in New York, and even there's a great Chicago arc too.
This show should be weird. It is not weird enough.
But it should be weird in terms of being a Marvel branded Batman with colorful, strange villains, with some supernatural elements, but not married to this mythology. I feel like they got hung up on this, Jeff Lemire run that doesn't have a whole lot to do with who Moon Knight, is or could be in the context of a superhero show. It's a nice little diversion for sure. But all right, speaking of diversions, we're going to take it back to the comments because we got a lot.
That's good ones here.
All right, so Big Swifty says, "Nice, I'll sell it tomorrow." Referring back to Moon Knight number 1.
Make that money.
My Venmo is.
Nice. Cut Annie in for 10%. No,
Okay.
And also Hammer, LOL. Yes, gotta get that love for Hammer in again. But yeah, that was Mark's first foray, as was mine into my second foray into Shaw Brothers and Hammer films. I almost said Hammer Brothers, but that's Super Mario.
That's Super Mario. Yeah,
I would watch that.
That's gonna be Chris Pratt.
Mario
and Charlie Day. And
I forgot Charlie Day's in there too.
And Jack Black.
You can stop. You don't have to keep.
And Jordan Peele.
No, please stop.
Oh.
Can
I be Bowser and just?
It's going to be amazing, you guys. It's going to be the Avatar of video game movies. All right, so
or Seth Rogen.
Yeah, Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan. Make it interesting.
He's more Italian than anybody else there.
All right, so Sajiwa is dropping in for a bit.
All right.
Working on wrapping up Slow Romance 2 script over here in Brooklyn. Almost there. Awesome. And I'm also glad you're safe, sir, given the unfortunate news from this week. Moon Knight, Owlman, the 2 eps I saw so far have not been great. Above Boba Fett level, similar to Falcon Winter Soldier type and quality, I think. Not close to Mando level, which was excellent. Yeah.
I mean, I know we've been dogging Boba Fett, but at least this show, despite how much of a hurry it's in, is moving forward.
Yes.
Instead of 800 flashbacks that don't do enough or much. And
although I would have liked a flashback with the gods, because just getting the avatars, just getting that, or even have
and Arnold Vosloo needs to be there,
or just a ghostly image of the avatar of the gods going into them rather than just their eyes glowing. Something to give me the epicness feel that these are gods talking, because right now I'm just seeing guys with glowing eyes.
Yeah,
and
in the IKEA decorated pyramid, which is
in the IKEA
joint, by the way, right?
Yeah,
it's like a nightclub in Berlin.
That is in Tennessee.
We didn't
what if it
talk
was
about
shot there? Then what? If we just took all of Moon Knight, right, whatever we have now, and we moved it to the Bass Pro Shop pyramid in Tennessee.
Stay. That's not a bad idea. If we could film all this shit in Georgia, why not? Yeah.
Instant classic, and I would say better than Eternals, which is high praise. But no, we even talked about the Egyptian medieval times, wherever the hell was going on with those horses and Wow. Anyway,
What was
okay,
that?
so
I don't know.
It was a diversion. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat though, when Layla was down on the ground and the one guy was charging on a horse. I was like, "Do you think is Moon Knight gonna save her in time?" Anyway,
I thought she was gonna be like a springboard for him to jump higher into the horse. I'm like,
I just love how he heals quicker than Wolverine.
Oh,
I mean,
shit.
he had like 4 serious logs shoved through him, and boom, we cut, and he's totally. I'm like, I get he's Moon Knight and he's supposed to have super heal, but wow, where at least have a log hanging out of him at some point to where he could pull it out and then hit the guy off the horse with it. That'd be cool.
Well, I think the writer's room has a collective log hanging out of it because this show is creatively constipated. Anyway, but so Sajiwa continues. Always fun to see Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. Yes, local Brooklyn-based actors. I think both of them. Really, is Oscar Isaac a Brooklynite?
Is it Hawke a Texan?
Well, he's I think adopted Brooklyn as his home.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Oscar's Colombian.
He is from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
He is from Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Oh,
I believe he is Colombian. Let me see.
Yeah, I thought
I
Colombian.
know he is. He's Latino.
Okay.
As a Colombian.
But he's becoming that '80s guy of the racially ambiguous.
I apologize. He's Guatemalan.
He's Omar Sharif at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Either way, he comes from great coffee stock. All right, so. But after listening to you guys a bit, I always check out the EP, so we'll see EP03. Let's see, okay? You've been warned, Sajiwa. Why do the Marvel Disney series, Petty asking, why do the Marvel Disney series stumble over and over again with the same stone? Having IPs as rich as Star Wars or MCU make such poor products. Aren't writers talented? I ask humbly and honestly. That's a great question. It's a great question, considering how many people out there would literally kill members of their own family to write on a Disney Marvel show.
But we've talked about this on your show where you and I guess we dipped into it even this episode where they hire some newbie people that they can obviously pay and control, but at the same time, they keep passing over a house full of comic book writing talent to pass it off to less than stellar screenwriters to distill it down to the stuff we get in the show where and I'll go to Mark here, this is where DC kicks ass, because at least in their animated division where they bring comic creators to make cinematic treatments of their stuff and they keep it to the core. They don't lose any weight, and obviously the frills that come with maybe stretching things or condensing things in movie form are never lost because they stay in the yard, so to speak. And how Marvel can't do that, I have no idea.
And you're absolutely
they make jobs for other people.
They make jobs.
Because I mean, what was it? Who did a bunch of the last series we did? Agent Zero, cute little. The writers of that, or here we are with the sci-fi guys from the Endless. It's nice to see young people get a shot at a big thing and a brass ring, but when you ask for some quality, bring some quality in.
And that's the thing, though. It's you get someone, young director or directing duo who prove that they can make really interesting films, but then you bring them into this corporate setting and they're not asked to be creative. They just are. They're known to be competent and they can make products. So that's why I don't get excited anymore. Oh, did you see this young hip indie director got a job at Disney or Fox or whatever? I'm like, no, because they're not going to be able to do that work. What the check that they're going to get is going to ensure that they can go back and make really interesting work, perhaps for decades to come. But in terms of investing in this product,
Barry Jenkins doing Lion King too. That's the only hire. That's the only hire Disney's made. That's the only hire Disney's made where I'm like, damn, they brought in some heat.
What could they possibly do that's new?
Enough to get Barry Jenkins to get a paycheck.
I really don't want to know.
But Barry will do what Ava DuVernay did before him with Wrinkle in Time. He will take that paycheck and invest it into the stuff that he does and the stuff that Ava's done. Look at the documentaries and things she's done.
What's that?
It's literally
Don said Wrinkle in Time, and I asked if Chris Pine was going to be there.
It's literally the Tim Burton approach of films after Batman. Tim Burton, I know I brought it up have mentioned before, but he came online one because they wondered why he came back for Batman Returns, because he was done with Batman, and they asked him for Batman Returns, and he's like, well, because they were going to pay me a lot of money to do it. And he goes, and I do the big IP movies like Alice in Wonderland and that ones that he may not be as attached to, so he could take that money and make the films he want, like Big Eyes and Big Fish, and the indie small stuff that he likes, whether or not you like those films either, but he makes those where you can tell he's more into it. And you've got that here as well. This is the same argument I have for video game. Now, I haven't seen Sonic 2, but I was impressed by Sonic 1. But here's the argument I have with video game movies as well. I'm like, how do you screw this up? All the fans want is the live action version of the source material. You have well-written source material here from the video game. You have decades of wonderful source material from Marvel. Why change it up? People want to see that in the live version. That's why the Frank Miller ones, whether or not people enjoy them or not, made money, because the Frank Miller fans got what they wanted, which was literally a live action panel comic of what they read in the comic. They kept it visually and story narrative wise really close to the source material. And it sounds like here from what all you guys are saying with the Moon Knight, why not at least do that? Because at least you're going to hold on to your core fans, the devout fans, because they're like, hey, we're getting what we want. But you start changing this up. Now you've got people who, like me, aren't familiar with it going, what's going on? And you've got your devout fans going, what's going on?
Well, that's the excuse that I'm sure that someone can give, is that Moon Knight, much more than even Batman, has had so many different iterations and story arcs and stuff that there is no necessarily definitive version of the character. So someone's gonna be pissed off no matter what. But my question is this amalgamation of a storyline and some other stuff kind of thrown in, is this really the best that you can do, the best foot forward you're gonna put? Because honestly, unless they do something really great in episodes 4, 5, and 6, I never want to see this character again until they reboot him for in the future. If there is no true canon Moon Knight, they could just come back and, with Oscar Isaac even, and just say, forget about that other series. This is, Moon Knight redo.
No, you make a good point, because Elliot posted online something about the cap that we see Marc and or Jake wearing, and it's a blacked out Chicago Cubs hat. Is that, and that raises the question, is it just a nod to Marc originally being a Chicago guy? Right. Or is it Jake kind of embracing that New York thing? And then Elliot kind of furthered that, because I commented, I was like, he was originally from Chicago in the comics, but this could be a way to introduce Jake piece by piece. And he goes, oh yeah, isn't he from New York? Again, we have that conflicting information.
Sure. But we've seen those nods before
he's
too.
An alter, but there's so much more that gives background how that alter became a New York cab driver that we don't have.
I honestly, I was looking at that cap. I thought it was a G, like a Green Bay, blacked out Green Bay logo. And then I thought about Marc.
Marc Spector is a Green Bay fan.
I don't like them
that is canon officially.
Canon.
Okay, so now,
so.
Listen, every superhero TV show needs a villain. Every YouTube show that talks about superhero shows needs a villain. And here we have our very own DN back again.
All right.
Once you grow up, you won't care about any of this Marvel crap. Nothing sticks. Thank you for that.
Have you ever felt
are they guilty of their own machines right now, though, where we're all sitting around tapping our toes or tapping our fingers on a desk waiting for this to redeem itself with a plug-in to something we know? Like, would a Doctor Strange anchor or tether save this? Would a Scarlet Witch tether save this? Would that's the thing. Like, this is the first one I've seen in a long time where, like, Loki had enough tethers, because it was started with Loki and that helped. And even though they went for the TSA and whatever that was over the time, like, they went far out, but they were still tethered enough, then built another tether by throwing in Kang, who we're going to get more of. But I don't know what tether saves this, unless, because a snap won't save it, a Eternals thing won't save it. I don't know where this gets redeemed, and you don't want him running down a New York street fighting Chitauri on Avengers 4 either. So like that doesn't make sense for this guy either. I don't know what the end game here is.
This feels
Well,
very much
Endgame
like a
released in
series.
2019, Done.
No, the end game of
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I know what you're saying.
But
No, I
that's
get you.
another thing, though. I think this is out of all the series we've had and everything, this is the least connected to anything in the MCU. You literally could watch this and you would have no clue, except for maybe a few of the Easter eggs in the background for those keen eagle eyes. But still, you'd really have no clue. That's why I asked at the first episode, when does this take place? Because right now, this does not feel like post blip. This does not feel like post snap at all. This feels like this takes place way before that.
Well, I think I hate to bring up Morbius again. Actually, I don't, because I love that movie. This I did that just for John's reaction.
Morbius
I haven't seen it. I can't. Yeah.
Morbius sweep. That's right. But no, the idea that, aside from the kind of the end, the post-credit scenes, that movie does not feel like it connects into the Marvel universe. Really, it feels like it could. Like if you really wanted to, you could work Morbius into it. And the trailers are very misleading with those Spider-Man posters in the background we kind of talked about last week. But same with Moon Knight. This feels like the most disposable show. It feels like he could still be around at the end, or they could kill him, and nobody in the main Marvel MCU is going to notice or care or even be aware that he was around.
With shaving, because this is just 6 episodes, 50 minutes each, where with some editing and shaving, could this have worked as a movie? I don't know if it would work as a movie either.
If you did a Midnight Suns type movie, right? If we waited a few years after we had Blade, and even if you decided to tie in Black Knight, right, where he's not originally in the Midnight Suns, but because he could tie into that supernatural element, that high fantasy element that we're slowly but surely making our way towards, and we may emphasize even more come May, right?
You would hope.
And I was about to say in a few months. I keep forgetting that May is like
2.5 weeks away.
We're almost.
We're almost there. With that happening, and going back to what Don said a few minutes ago about tying this back into Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. Don't. We've seen so much already. I'm serious. Yeah. I've seen, and I much like Don, I avoid trailers, I avoid spoilers. But because of the amount of material that Marvel has, even that they decided to cut a post-credit scene for No Way Home where they had the 3 Spideys hanging out, which I'm a little upset that they decided to cut. Yeah. And they decided to put the entirety of the first Doctor Strange trailer in there. What is the reason? Like we don't need to see this much. And if they have some sort of even the slightest hint, even if they name drop the Darkhold or do something. And that has to die. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is not the epicenter of Marvel. It is not.
They're going to make it for this phase.
We have to stop treating it like that.
Yeah.
We have to, because we can't let that be what dictates what's coming next. If this were to be Midnight Suns, right, where we have Mahershala Ali as Blade, and that is established, and we get that off the ground a little bit more. We have Marc or whoever as Moon Knight come on in and pick that up a little bit, where we can have more of a collaborative effort and see these multiple personalities, but have a little more engagement with the world around him besides engaging with Khonshu or Layla or Arthur, where we have them present, but it doesn't have to be confined to this small bubble. And for having an international crisis, this feels so confined.
Here's the thing. And again, I might walk this back after episode 6, but as of right now, the only time I want to see or hear about Oscar Isaac being in the Marvel Universe is about 3 years from now in the America Chavez movie, where she is about to save New York and she jumps in a cab because something or other. You see Oscar Isaac with a cap and a funny mustache, and you're like, oh, that's right, he was in a show once. But okay, we're about to run over.
You and I can see and hear anything about Oscar Isaac all the time.
Oh boy.
I'm an Oscar Isaac fan.
No, but you make a good point. We don't need him, and he's gonna stick around for the next 10 years or whatever. For what? This
Midnight Suns.
The Midnight Suns has to be done well, though. It has to.
But is it too far apart? Blade's not for another 2 years. They bumped all the timeline. Blade's not for another 2 years, right?
Again? They bumped the timeline?
No, they bumped the release dates.
The release calendar, yeah.
This past winter, and I think everything got bumped. So,
but by the time we see it, it's going to be the Midnight Grandsons. All right, so here's the thing:
be too old.
We're going to wrap. You're never too old, despite what Deanne might think. Now, here we're going to get through the rest of these comments because we are over time here, and I want everyone to be able to get to bed. I still am fighting a cold, but the talking about Moon Knight, a show I don't really care for, but talking about it with you all invigorates me, fills me with joie de vivre, as they say en France. All right, so Sujiwa says,
"We got your great British accent, and then we got your French." Damn,
I took French for 4 years in high school, and I remember some of it. All right, so Sujiwa is actually addressing Petty. Corporate film and TV making is when the company interferes or have other goals, things may get messed up. Yes, it's in line with what we're talking about.
The crazy thing is, like, other than Edgar Wright walking away from Ant-Man, it's been kumbaya like crazy over there. Like, even
the Marvel side of thing, not the Lucasfilm. Certainly,
Scott Dickerson left Doctor Strange too.
Yeah, but not as loud as Edgar leaving, and it was Doctor Strange where. I don't know. I think it helps that you bring in Sam Raimi. You bring in something with some cachet where you can wash Scott Derrickson away easily. And he's not exactly the most vocal thing in the world. Now, I don't know how many NDAs the guy had to sign to be like, "Hey, we're not bringing you back for the sequel. Sign this and get the fuck away from me." But you don't like the strife we get. If there's strife, we don't hear about it compared to across town with Warner and DC, where, it's crazy over there. So.
Yeah, I wonder if Ethan Hawke would have ended up in Doctor Strange 2 because they made Sinister together.
Scott Derrickson.
Yeah. Okay, so Jeremy, hey, what's up, man? Catering to the lowest common denominator, I can't even muster up the effort to watch Boba nor Moon Knight. Love this weekly show, though. Thank you. That's what we love to hear, man. Yeah. Awesome. Petty's back. Sujiwa, thank you very much for the answer. I think I've seen you in some videos with Ian. You and Ian make a very good pair. Awesome. Well, thank you. And shameless plug, check out our interview with Thomas J. Ryan of Henry Fool fame that went up the other day. Very good episode. Thanks, film nerds talking. Everyone ultimately ends up in Brooklyn.
So I might be hanging out with Sujiwa in Brooklyn this summer.
Oh, good.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'll be in the East Coast like a week apart. I have a wedding, and then I have to go back and do something for an internship. So I will be.
There you go.
Sujiwa,
set it up.
We're gonna link.
All right, and if we can time it so we're on one of these shows, then you guys can both have a webcam, and you guys can.
There you go. Yeah.
That'd be amazing. All right, here we go. Deanne, if you're not all in with their leftist agenda, and not only that, but overt about it, Disney will not want you. That's
just because we have the ability to speak, Deanne, does not make you intelligent.
Well, this is an entirely different conversation. We're not going to get into politics here. But
fair enough, though.
Well, there you go. All right, good film and TV transcends politics. For good results, you need creative producers and directors with final cut rights. Big companies are not comfortable with that in the U.S. Yeah. Money talks. It's the almighty dollar.
Well, and that's the thing is the one comment with the end talking about the leftist agenda. You're giving Disney too much credit. It's not leftist agenda. It's capitalistic agenda.
No, I would disagree. There have been some of those higher up Zoom calls with the executives that we could have a whole other thread about. But yes, except sometimes in HBO, True Detective season 1 was good. Writer, director, showrunner was able to do whatever he wanted. I own True Detective season 1. Not watched it yet. I gotta do that.
It's a good one.
An ambitious, unique miss by an auteurist film TV maker is typically more exciting than a watered-down corporate film team-made success. Each story needs a unique, appropriate voice. Definitely agree with that. And
yeah.
Just wish we could get more of that. All right, so leftist propaganda is predominantly pandering nowadays with those leftists on the insert country. New Wave did it through cinema. It was because they had some principles and dignity to uphold.
Rather have it than not.
Well, I don't. I'm
principles and dignity part. I'm just saying.
Yes, I'm all for principles and dignity. Petty said, I asked that the last and most important question of the night have already been praised for Annie's cute hairstyle.
You're damn right. Look at that.
Yeah, that
to
hair, the
relax.
hair rocks.
Ooh.
You know?
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's more than me. I'm just sporting the Friar Tuck look. That's what I'm going for right here. Is slow, but it's getting there.
Mhm.
I'm getting there.
Robin Hood themed air fryer tuck.
That's
Sorry, my mind goes places when I'm tired or
Right.
sick.
Make
TV is
some-
not politics, but politics has
mutton.
always been in TV and all other
Mhm.
human arts and entertainment. Regardless, some storyteller, directors, writers are very good. Yeah.
I could rename my website to every movie has politics and never run out of material.
yeah.
That'll be your secondary site. I want to see
I
that.
would love
Good
that.
plug.
I need a new Twitter handle. Yeah.
There you go. And you also need more time if you're going to run a second website, man. I don't know how you
Yeah.
keep up with that in the podcast and geez. I've seen good movies and TV made by creators from all over political or non-political spectrum over the last 100. Sajira, how old are you?
He's 250. Yeah. He's an
Mando
eternal.
is,
Yeah.
Mando is a good example. Liberal people making a fun, good show.
That's true.
Yeah, there's a good point. These movies nowadays who purport to send us pertinent messages to seem as transparent as Don Siegel's Dirty Harry and to steal Pauline Kael's critique of that movie and reverse it, these movies, ... You know, to sidetrack here,
Mm.
I need to find some good Pauline Kael. I can't
She
find,
has a
like,
collected book, I believe, right?
are there,
Did
maybe
she
it's
write a
just,
book?
yeah, I know
Her-
she's
a
written,
book
there are
has
several
been
books, like I
done.
Lost It at the Movies and all that, but
Yeah.
I feel like I have a hard time finding when I go to bookstores. I need to, like, start going to, like, actual bookstores, not like Barnes and Noble instead of half-price books, because
Yeah, I
there's
go
just
to
always a
half-price books.
crapshoot.
Low-key.
half-price
Yeah.
books.
I
that
love
stuff.
half-price books, but they never have Pauline Kael in stock.
I included
They have
Pauline Kael
Laserdisc.
in my capstone
That's
project.
right.
I got
Yeah.
100 on it.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did a lot of quote. I pulled a couple of her old interviews, wrote about her influence on the media, atmosphere, how her voice was. She was viewed as a pioneer, especially from a feminine perspective, and how her attitudes did not abide by everyone else in that kind of sphere. Yeah, I guess it went over well. So
Awesome.
I do graduate in 2 weeks.
Just in time for, are you going to go straight from the ceremony to Doctor Strange?
I have to stop that ceremony halfway through, walk out, pull over my tassel, and then go to Doctor Strange.
Sounds
No,
like a
it-
plan.
I'm actually, I will be, it coincides. Wait,
Screening's on a Monday. Graduation's probably a Sunday, right?
yeah, so
You'll
it'll be
make it
that
out.
Sunday after the screening.
You'd be hungover.
I will be very hungover.
Probably in the right frame of mind for the multiverse of madness.
This is true.
All right. Messages do have to be wrapped in art and entertainment.
You don't have to.
No,
Tell
But
the truth and
they
good news,
can
and you're
be, but
fine.
they don't have to be.
Yeah.
although
That's
now
up
I'm,
to your audiences and how you want to reach them.
but here's the thing. Now
Correct.
I'm going through a Rolodex of like, that's not true. But everything that's coming up is like, well, there's a message in there. Damn it, Sajio, you've challenged
every
me.
movie has a lesson here.
What is
Oh.
the lesson behind
No,
Dr.
look at
Strange?
that.
Yeah.
There's a shameless hashtag. License
Okay,
to shill there.
So here's the second part of that. It's these movies are remarkably single-minded attack on conservative values.
They make it so
he was
easy.
reversing Kale. So did she say that there was an attack on?
Oh yes,
liberal-
these
okay.
movies are.
Yeah.
This is where that goes. Yeah.
Okay, that's it's. I'm putting it more together now.
Yeah.
Conservatives will be fine. Movies and
Yes, they
TV has always been more liberal. Most of the world is conservative. That's the balance. All right. This is like a full-on. This is like
know, look at these
crossfire
guys.
in the
Oh.
comments section.
You can invoke no way and Refn. This ought to be good. Where's
Hell,
William
nowadays, the
Friedkin?
movies of Gaspar Noé and Nicholas Winding Refn are considered conservative, while if they were done 20 years ago, it would be hedonistic.
Oh, there's still that. Don't worry.
I got Nicholas
way,
Winding
at least.
Refn's release of RoboCop, the vinyl. That was awesome.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
Nice.
Refn can go kick bricks.
I don't think anyone would consider Gaspar Noé's, was it Love or Sex?
Love.
I think it was Love. Yeah, I actually talked to
You-
him about that movie for like 15 minutes.
Nice.
That was fun. Over the phone though. It was weird.
But I can't call
guess-
that movie hedonistic though. No. It's
Well-
not Caligula. No.
But he was saying it would be considered conservative. And if it was done 20 years ago, it would be hedonistic. 20 years ago, I think it would have been banned. But
No, it would be American Pie 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to hear this guy's take on The Hunt.
Hey, I loved The
Ooh.
Hunt.
I know.
Um,
I want to hear this
I'm
guy's
just
take
saying-
on The Hunt.
I'm just saying conservatives make themselves easy targets by being so
Hey,
stupid.
look, let's keep it nice here, gang.
Okay.
But
I like
will,
turtles.
Yeah.
Thanks,
You
Mark.
keep talking, Wisconsin.
Yeah. All right.
Pull your
so-
udders and make your cheese, Paul Ryan. Okay.
Hey, we are the most
Bring me a
drunk.
spotted cow, Mark.
Okay, if I
I
ever
have
make it
12 of
down
my
there, I
friends
will
over here.
bring you spotted cow and some Stevens Point lager.
Yes.
Oh, that
Yes,
sounds
so-
awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
We will get you
Again with the
Lord.
logs. No, okay.
Wow.
I guess movies and TV are different in ultra-conservative countries without free speech, like in Iran, maybe.
Well, that's the thing. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You got countries that don't even let it happen. That's harsh.
Good show.
Thank you, Sajua.
Who is Ian?
Whoa, this guy.
Okay, hold on.
He's the conservative in disguise that does here. Yeah, because that's Ian.
Oh my god.
I've read you before.
Yeah.
Oh, could you frame that?
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
I wish I could. Ian is on the top left.
Who is
Let's
Ian?
see. Yep, we'll hang Annie. Definitely. Got to make some.
Absolutely, we will hang. I'm looking forward to it already.
Hey, Mike.
Mike. Wish I could make it today, let alone next week. Ebert Fest. It always sneaks up on me. Damn it.
That was David
was
Lynch
at work.
Fest this year, right?
That was at the Music Box this past week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ebert Fest. Was this the episode where Mark's wife comes in?
It's Mark
Hey.
with a. Oh, not my wife.
I was gonna
Oh,
say,
I would love to
wife-
see your
my
wife come in. Yeah.
I missed
Okay.
that episode. I
Right.
don't remember their
Were you
their
guys
show
having
very
sex on
well.
rocks too? Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, I just wanted to see you spit his beer. I got it.
Love the comeback.
Oh,
Mark's a spitter for sure. Anyway,
God.
Do I get to find out?
what?
I
If it
love
was
this.
merely
That's a fair point, Deanne. That is a fair point.
Where's my bell for this?
if
Oh,
it was
man.
merely a capitalistic agenda, Hollywood would not crumble as quickly as it has. No,
It's very true.
Hollywood is definitely atomized. I don't know if it's going anywhere.
Word for it.
Yeah, but it like The Walking Dead, it will never die. Although that show is coming to an end, I think. So
Yes,
forget
it
what
Oh,
I
there's a
just said.
spinoff. They already have
Yeah,
other spinoffs.
another one.
Oh, I got a
Dead
spinoff.
Horse.
Retire The Walking Dead. See you all
Zombies,
next
10
week.
years. Yeah.
Mike says, "Congrats! 2 weeks will come fast." So that's
Thanks,
that's
Mike.
for Annie, I believe.
Yeah, it's more like
Did you
3
just
now
say
that I
Annie
think
comes
about it, but
fast?
No. I'm not gonna leave that.
You
hanging.
wish.
I know, right?
Oh,
Atta girl.
wow.
And a girl. Here we go.
Again with the family-friendly show
Yeah.
reviewing the Disney.
Put
Marvel
this on
series.
Hulu now. on
We're-
YouTube.
We're more saucy than the
Yeah,
We're
this
more
is how you do
saucy
it,
than the
Disney.
Where's
gritty.
the Pornhub logo in the corner here, right?
We're more saucy than the gritty Disney show.
Yeah.
You know?
We're approaching supernatural levels of saucy. in
There you
fact.
go.
So yeah.
That's true.
I should replace my name with the Pornhub logo because apparently it's not having an effect. I finally just watched Shawshank for the first time this weekend. It was amazing.
Young kids
Um,
finding it.
When
They did
our
it.
school lifted the mask mandate in classes, we all celebrated by posting the last shot of Shawshank on our Instagram stories.
Oh, say what?
Like we
You
all
know,
got together.
For everybody who ever talks about they're so polarizing in the movie verse and review verse, Shawshank is one of those films to where almost every critic
Everyone
you
liked
talk
Shawshank
to,
Redemption.
they
Wonderful.
either at least they thought it was decent
Yeah.
or they loved it.
Right.
I have yet actually met a person who said, "Wow, that was just hot trash."
completely
Not-
agree.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a very few,
Snobs, film bros, everybody can go to that watering hole and drink that movie.
yeah.
And honestly, I mean, someday it's not quite in the pantheon yet, but I'm convinced that Freddy Got Fingered will be in that category.
Oh fuck! Oh
Yeah.
God.
Oh my gosh, we should have just kept talking about Annie coming fast.
Wow.
Mm.
Mark
Yeah.
gifted me this.
Yes,
slash
I
Oh, I
did.
wanted
bet.
to get it out of his
There
house.
it is.
I wanted to get it out of my house. So
Yeah.
I
So,
didn't have
all
the
right.
VHS version.
Oh man.
Wow.
Let's see. Non-conservatives' ability to speak doesn't make them
The comments
intelligent.
just- Well,
Okay,
Here comes Mike. Yep, here comes
I think
Mike.
we should end it before we get into this.
Steve's the
crossfire.
spitter. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Yes.
Did I just call you Amy? Or was that Don? I don't know.
I wasn't me.
Who's Amy? Chasing Amy, 25 years this year. All right.
Oh,
so
now I feel old.
so do I. All right, everybody. We are almost an hour. We are almost twice the length of the Moon Knight episode 3 episode. I feel like we should cut this
45
off
minutes
like-
of this was comment talk, so that's the best part. Yeah.
Now, are we
Wow.
going to channel our gods since we're the avatars? I'm not sure who my god is, but probably.
I'm reading the synopsis
for what?
Yeah, you should.
The synopsis for what?
It's a ridiculous movie.
I'm reading,
For what?
Yeah.
reading the synopsis for Freddy Gets Fingered. What?
Read it for all of us.
No.
Read it for all of us. Come on.
No.
Annie, are you trying to say you've never watched Freddy Got Fingered?
You're better
Oh.
off.
How could she? Come on.
Look,
What?
that
Her
movie
father
is
has
amazing.
taste. Okay, he wasn't going to do that to her.
Well, that came out almost like the year you were born, so I guess
Correct.
that makes sense.
Tom Green did that to cinema.
90-02?
Something like that, yeah.
No, it's. Nah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, maybe one day we'll have to talk about it because Lord knows I need someone to talk about that movie with me.
Oh,
It's a movie for this
It's a
room.
real treat.
Mark,
Thank
make a
you so
theme
much.
and cover a whole month of other things just to get to this movie.
Between this and seeing a screenshot of someone getting proposed at a screening of The Room, and Tommy Wiseau is
That movie as well.
halfway.
I don't have time for that.
I could say that that's not the worst movie I've ever seen.
It's
Never.
not.
Not even close. Yeah.
Like, to be
I
proposed at
probably
at a screening, what would you do?
I
Like,
would,
this
I
guy,
would.
like Tommy is like full in the shot. I'll send it to you guys. He's in the shot and he's holding a microphone up, and like there's some guy just asking someone to marry them.
Wow.
Did
Yeah.
he ask it in? Did the guy proposing? Did he ask it in a Tommy Wiseau accent?
I just like to
The
say
romance does not end.
Tommy was so ruined it for every single person ever named Mark ever. I would just like to say that right now.
That's true.
Or he made it better because I mean,
I
come
have
on,
a
Mark.
president to ruin my name. Don't worry.
Someone wrote it in snow on my car. I came out and they wrote in snow HAI Mark. They were like, "Oh, hi." I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh,
Mark.
You know what?
What's your middle name, Mark?
That was probably Tommy Wiseau himself.
Tommy." Tommy.
Actually, he was probably there, Mark.
Yeah.
He was,
You know
he
what
was,
would have been
yeah.
great? The capper for that proposal. Because if it was like a midnight screening in the room, especially if Tommy was there, after I assume she said yes, I would hope so, because that would be the worst
She's
to get
crying in
turned
the
down.
picture.
You
So I
don't
think
ask that
she's-
question if you don't
I'd
know
be
the
crying
answer.
too if I got proposed to at the room.
Yeah.
So, read that either way. But no, after she says yes, everybody throws the plastic spoons at the lovely couple.
There you go.
That would have
That
been
could work.
perfect.
That could work.
All right, so we're going to close it out here. Petty says, thank you very much for today's excellent live. I don't know if celebrates Easter this Sunday, but for those who do, happy Easter. I will be celebrating this Sunday. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Happy Easter to you
You
too.
bet.
And also, Jeremy, Battlefield Earth. Yes, that is.
Ooh, see,
I
we've
saw
got a four-pack
Battlefield
here.
Earth. I saw that with my fiance, and
Look how that turned out.
well, we got married. We got a couple of kids.
See? I
So,
know. Yeah.
but we saw it
and
in the
Scientology. So.
opening weekend.
Oh,
There were 4 other people in the theater. 2 of them got up and left. So it was practically a private
Awesome.
screening
wow.
and another life-changing moment. Okay, happy Easter to the
That can go so
fans,
many
also from
ways.
Sajiwa. Thank you. All right,
Thank you, Suju.
we're gonna wrap it up here, gang. Thank you for staying over and hanging out and talking ostensibly about Moon Knight, but mostly about orgasms and
Anything
conservatism
else.
and all sorts of great things.
Literally anything
And we had
else.
more fun doing that. Come on.
Yes. So what do we get into next week? We'll not talk about Moon Knight 4, although apparently there's going to be a lot to talk about. So I'm anxious.
There will be. Yeah.
It better live up to the
There
hype.
will be.
Okay, so I have, contrary to popular belief, I have been Ian Simmons of Kicking the
Yeah,
Seat.
that's it.
We have Don Shanahan of 25 Years Later and the Cinephile History of It podcast, Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of the Spoiler Room and Special Mark Productions, and Annie Banks of Chuckload of Comics and Movie Web. Thank you all very much, and thank you for you who joined in the live show. And if you're catching this later, be sure and smash that like button if you did like what you see, and join us back here next week, 8:30 p.m. Central for Wednesday Night Live, episode 4. We'll have Earth's Mightiest Critics back in probably a different configuration because we've got some people. We haven't had a full panel yet, maybe for the finale. But yeah, it's always a great show. As Jeremy says, LOL, great show as always. Thank you very much. Sorry, Ian, just know the face, didn't know the name. It's all good, Deanne. Thank you. And we do appreciate having you on. So thanks.
And don't click click the thumb. Don't smash it, because then you might penetrate your monitor, and then that'll just be. No,
Say
you don't
penetrate
wanna-
again, Mark.
You don't want to
Yeah,
smash.
Slower. Say it
No.
slower too. Penetrate.
Don, put your hands up before Mark says anything else. All right. Good night, everybody. We'll sketch you next week.